The first leg of the Asian Champions League 2 semi-finals, and Sydney FC have lost 2-0 in that first leg. It's all about next week in Sydney. Can the Sky Blues turn it around? This is obviously a huge game, not just for Sydney FC, but a huge game for Australian football. This is the competition that Central Coast Mariners won last year. They went all the way, lifted the trophy. Can we see another Australian team do it in consecutive years here? Sydney FC, they haven't had a great start to the semi-finals, 2-0 away to Lion City Sailors. Would love to hear from you guys as well. What was your thoughts on this match and Sydney FC's chances in the second leg? Look, overall, it's been a very solid campaign from Sydney FC. We remember that last away game in that quarterfinal away to Jeonbuk, where they won 2-0. They were good in that second leg, strong defensively, and a couple of nice goals from Patrick Klamala. But this time around, they did struggle against Lion City Sailors. They didn't have the success that they've experienced in the past in this tournament. And for Lion City Sailors, they'll be very happy with that home performance. A cracking goal, especially that first one. Incredible goal to put Sydney FC behind. And then that second goal in the second half, Devon Ishmeers, could he have done better at his near post there to deny that one? Let's take a look at Sydney FC's lineup in this game. And you look at the team that they put forward for this match, and you would have expected them to at least maybe get a draw out of the first leg. Devon Ishmeers obviously has been sort of now the first choice keeper for Sydney FC for some time now. Again, this back four of Joel King on the right-hand side, Courtney Perkins over on the left. Alex Popovich came in at centre-back alongside Ryan Grant, so no Alex Grant for this match. Corey Holman also coming into midfield ahead of Wataru Kamijo, who's been starting the last few games now for a little while, alongside Leo Senna. Caceres playing that central role, which is something I noticed that Ufuk Talay shaked up a little bit. We saw, I think it was that away leg against Jeonbuk in the quarterfinals, where Caceres was playing over on the left-hand side, and we have seen Costa sort of floating around in an attacking position, sometimes playing sort of just behind Patrick Klamala. This time he was predominantly out over on that left-hand side, and of course Lolly off the right. And Klamala was relatively quiet in this game. He didn't manage to influence this match too much, especially that way in the way that he did against Jeonbuk. But looking at that Sydney FC lineup, you got to say that surely there's enough there to get a result out of this game. And off the bench too, you look at the subs. I mean, they've got some good options there. Adrian Segic is obviously the big name that we look to, because this is a guy who's just been incredible this season, and he's been scoring goals, assisting goals, and he's been doing it off the bench, predominantly. He hasn't had that many starting minutes. Adrian Sekicic's been an incredible season for the youngster. Anas Wahim also, able to provide something different, but we haven't seen him get too many starting minutes late as well. Thiago Cantal, again, another one of these exciting attacking young players also. But Sydney FC unable to make a comeback in that second half after trailing in the first half, and work to do now for Ufuk Talay's side with that 2-goal advantage for the home team in that first leg. I mean, a huge test now at Allianz Stadium next week. Let's have a look at the stats as well. 12 shots, just the 2 on target for Sydney FC. So that sort of sums up the story a little bit for them. While they did have some opportunities in this game, not too much really threatened Lion City Sailors' goal in this match. Just the 9 shots on target for the home team, 3 of those on target. You can see Sydney FC had more possession as they usually do. In most games as well. More corners there as well. Passing accuracy was all right, but unable to make the breakthrough, past that stubborn defence that Lion City Sailors had. So the question now becomes, I mean, what does Sydney FC do differently to make that breakthrough? And it's a huge test, as I said, because obviously they've got to come back from 2 goals down. And we have seen some really shaky form, not just in the Asian Champions League 2, but in the A-League. That's in Sydney, for Sydney. Allianz Stadium, they haven't had the winning form that they would like at their own home stadium. So this is a massive test and a huge opportunity to qualify for the final. And as we know, if they get through to the final, they will be hosting it. It is a huge, huge match next week for Sydney FC. Looking at what changes they could make. I mean, Adrian Segic, we've been talking about the fact that he's been doing so well. And maybe does it require him having a bigger role in this team and starting? I mean, maybe his best role is coming off the bench as an impact player, changing games. Unfortunately, in this match, he wasn't able to have the impact that he had, especially away in Adelaide in the A-League last week, where he came on and scored the winner. But, you wonder whether maybe you look at Anas Wahim as well. But the question then becomes, who do you drop? Obviously, Sydney FC have to go for the game. So one solution that they could look to is dropping Caceres into a deeper role alongside Leo Senna. Maybe play, those two guys as the two holding midfielders. That allows someone like Anas Wahim or Adrian Sejic to come into that attacking sort of, quartet of players there. Maybe play a central attacking midfield role. That might be what is required. Almost playing, just with the one holding midfielder, Leo Senna as that one holding midfielder, playing with two sort of creative midfielders to really get the attack going there for Sydney FC, because it's all about that attack. But then obviously the concern for them has been in defence this season. They've been really leaky at the back and chopping and changing who's playing in defence for a lot of this season. You get the sense that Ufuk Talay just hasn't been able to find his strongest, back for this season, which is a shame for Sydney FC, because you look at the attackers and they've got so many threatening players. I mean, they've had a really good run in this tournament, and I think they do deserve to get to the final. But it's all about this next game in Sydney next week. But we'd love to hear from you guys as well. I mean, what changes do you think Sydney FC need to make, if any? I mean, do they go with the same lineup, or do they go for a bold formation, a bold setup that's going to see them, really score some goals and go for it here. But obviously they can't leave themselves too exposed at the back. So that is the trick for Sydney FC. But it is a huge match next week at Allianz Stadium. Potentially another A-League side to get to a final in Asian, club competition, which would be just an incredible achievement for Australian football. Obviously, Mariners winning last year was massive for Australian football. And if we can get another A-League team to win this tournament, I mean, that's just fantastic. So that's the thing with these competitions. We almost support our rival teams, regardless of who it is. If it's an Australian club in Asia, we sort of, we're barracking for them a little bit here. So hopefully Sydney FC can turn things around and get themselves to the final. And then what an occasion it would be if they are able to host the final in Sydney. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the like button on the way out. Thanks very much for tuning in. Make sure to stay subscribed for more Australian football talk right here on the channel. My name's Lockie, and I'll see you in the next one.